Should be live. Yeah, should be live. I don't know if my microphone's fine, but anyways. We are back for Tier 1 in HOR. First time commenting, so give me a break. However, it is also the first out of 2 sprint qualifying sessions, so it's gonna be a bit interesting to see who's going to use those one-shot qualifyings to come out ahead, let's say. It's a bit unstable. Keep going quiet. Bit right that bad. Yeah, I know, it's fine. Okay. So just a little recap on the drivers. Paul is currently 2nd, but if he has a good round, he has a chance to go take the lead of the championship, as Steggy has been kicked out, sent to the basement, as well as many other drivers. But the constructors right now see Sauber leading, so it's going to be interesting to see if Sauber are going to be able to keep the lead. Same goes for Alpine, as they're, just a couple of points behind, if I remember correctly. Then you got Williams, who's in 3rd, and then just close points at the back. So let's see. Probably favorites coming into this round are most likely going to be Pole. Possibly some surprises like Clipsy, as he doesn't have his quali ban this time, as his racing standards were a bit gone downhill in the last couple of rounds. So yeah, it's gonna be very, very interesting to see. Okay, so drivers now are gonna choose their setups. Most likely, wings here are very low. Probably 0-0 is the choice for many drivers here. But you also want to try to have a bit more in the corners, or else it's gonna be very hard to keep the car turning. However, Tier 2 was a bit of the mess last 2 rounds, so it's going to be interesting to see here, as we got Silver right now currently leading as they go down onto the main straight. Let's just get track map on real quick and lap data, just to see You got Hugo, a reserve driver, who's into P8, coming out of turn 1, turn 2. Who's going to come out ahead? It is Ben Crook, who leads it by, I think that's quite a little gap. But Lucas Champion is sitting into second as they go about 300 kilometers into turn 4. Braking, just gets it right. Does he keep it? Yes, he does. Doesn't even touch a bit of grass. So now they go into turn 6, into Lesmo. Turn 7, it's actually Clipsy who takes the advantage. Michele in P4, P3 now, as they go down onto the back straight. Lucas Champion is currently leading. Brazzers retires from the session. Ben Krug also down and away, all into last place. What's happened to them? I've probably invalidated. Paul also completely gone out of the game. He's gonna start in last. So what's happened to them? Championship, possible championship leader. It's gonna start all the way from last place. But you got out of the final corners, Lucas Champion is probably going to get pole. Or is it going to be Clipsy? It's going to be very tight. Is it going to be Clipsy? It might look to be Clipsy. Clipsy takes, what a lap by him, an 18.4 on a one shot. But it's less than 1/10 the gap to P2. Lucas Champion is right near him. Very, very nice qualifying by Clipsy as he takes his first pole position. Definitely a first sprint pole position this season. But yeah, however, it is looking very interesting here. It's probably the most disappointing one has to be pole. I mean, Brazzers as well. Brothers, try not to call them Brazzers. But you got Constella also starting from a very good position. So Haas here have completely rebuilt themselves from Austria, as well as the Red Bull, Kieran in P3. So gonna be very interesting here in the sprint. Who's going to come out ahead out of turn 1? I have no fucking idea. Oh. Strategies here are probably, I mean, it's a 9-lap sprint if I remember well. So, I mean, there's only one choice, so it's either the mediums or the hards. But if you want to try and keep those tires alive in this game, it's probably going to be hards. However, some people are definitely going to try to go with the mediums. So as it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lights, and away we go. It's a pretty late start from those starting lights, but Clipsy here gets a pretty good start, or never mind, as Lucas Champion is already 3 times behind. Kieran is going to try to get the advantage. Is somebody going to send it? Yes, it is. It's going to be the Racing Bulls of Campa. He sends it down on the inside, as Clipsy is already running away. 1 second, as there's a bunch of mess at the back, and Alfie drops to last place. Silver in P17 as well as Jacobs. His pole already grabs a couple of positions, but Clipsy here already flying 1 second. Lucas Champion is not able to catch him right now as Campa is going to try to go for a possible P2 as a bunch of mess down at the back. As it's a yellow flag and I think somebody's off the track. Yeah, that's Chesney off the track. And there's a mega collision. He's bashed off onto the wall. I think that was by the Mercedes of Hugo. But let's see here. Is he going to go for an overtake here? As, I mean, those gaps are looking a bit interesting, but maybe Jenga Boy is going to try to go for an overtake, but everybody tries to keep it clean here. I mean, it would be pretty ridiculous to try and go for a send. As they go past the Sakari, but Chesney here, yeah, does he not even have a wing? Let's see. Yeah, no, he's missing an end plate, so some big-ass collisions has happened as Jenga Boy now is fighting with Trent. They go on to the main straight. Clipsy takes the fastest lap, already dominating in the sprint. Something very surprising from him, as people go wheel to wheel here. Is somebody going to send it? No, everybody keeps it clean. Trent tries to be a little sneaky. Oh, is there a collision? Oh, that's Clipsy off the track. Oh, and he's just stopped. What has happened there? What the fuck? Clipsy now drops into last place. He cannot believe him himself. He's just staying still on track. I mean, going from 1 second leading in 1 lap, but it's just a sprint, so you have to hang on tight. As Lucas Champion now takes the lead of the sprint race, Campa here is going to use all the DRS to try and catch him. Is he gonna send it here onto the back straight, onto Ascari? No, he sticks by, keeps it very fairly clean as they go onto Ascari. Coming out of turn 10. Nobody tries to go for an outrageous send, but let's just get the positions gained real quick. As you can see, Pole is nearly in the points already as he sneaks by, tries to go for a dive bomb, but doesn't in the end. Also awkward, reserve driver gains 5 positions, and now Michele goes for the lead. Campa goes for the overtake on the lead as he does have a DRS compared to Lucas Champion, but Michele is Kieran, is in P3 already. No positions gained for him, but he's kept a fairly good pace so far as Campa now leads the sprint race. However, disastrous race from Clipsy as he's last place. Is now he's going to pit and probably retire at this point. Yes, he does. He does retire. What's happened to him? And that's 8 possible points gone, flying away. As Trent, as Silver actually, and Alf are the biggest losers so far, losing 4 and 5 positions respectively. So yeah, I mean, hasn't looked very surprising at the back as Ben Crook is made all the way into P11 as well. Pole also gaining 7 positions. Campa now retains a 5-tenth gap, but there's already a train. It's just a very big train from which separates from P10 to P11. However, nobody here tries to go for a Seneri, but just gonna probably be DRS train as Alfie gets a 3-second time penalty. Yeah, I mean, Clipsy hasn't had the best start, and it just went all to shit within a couple of laps as Campa here trying to get out of the DRS zone as Trent now goes wheel to wheel, makes a very good send to Jenga. Jenga doesn't even try and combat it. He knows he's going to have DRS after, so he's chilling. However, Pole now is up into P8 as well, as he's just trying to get by. Is there anything interesting going on? No, there really isn't. As we're going to go back into the leader now, who's sort of slowed down a little bit as Lucas Champion is caught back. Or never mind, as there's a yellow flag and Brazzers retires from the session. What's happened at the back? He's just DNF'd, and yeah, I think he just went into the wall or collided with somebody, and that's his race gone. Definitely one of the worst starts to the season for Brazzers. Sorry, Brothers. One of the worst starts to the season. I mean, DNF and DNF. However, there is still a race to go, so 27 laps is going to be enough for him to redeem himself. Yeah, you know, he had the best season last season, but not this season, which is what I said. And you still didn't win the championship, did you? As Kieran here sticks by everybody, just sticks by as there's somebody going wheel to wheel here. I think that's Paul trying to go for an overtake on Jenga Boy, but sticks behind actually. As Alfie here is going to pit, he's probably going to retire at this point. Yes, he does. He does retire from the session, and that's 3 drivers have retired already. However, there's a yellow flag, but yeah, that is Alfie's DNF. As Silver here goes for an overtake on Hugo. What's happened to Hugo? He was up into P6 fighting with Josh at one point, a Jenga Boy. Still though, Paul has had a flying start, but now just can't really go as that Constello goes into the wall. How has he done that? And he's just completely crashed out. What has happened there? And that's his race gone, and any points for the Haas. As Paul now swiftly moves into P6, gaining 10 positions already. As there's another yellow flag, but yeah, that's Constella still. As Hugo gets a 3-second time penalty, so he's the only one out of everyone to get a 3-second time penalty. As Constella just cuts a court. I think he's just trying to be a little bit He's just trying to be a terrorist. Anyways, let's see here. Is Kieran or Lucas Champion going to go for a move? But the gap seems a bit too far for anybody at this point, from P1 to P4. And then there's just another train here. Is Awkward sort of moves under braking, although can't really say. And Constella goes into the pits and he's just going to retire. As there's a little bit of wheel-to-wheel racing here. As Awkward tries to go for a move on Jenga Boy, but I don't think he has enough speed as he's only in 7th gear. He is oh, he almost loses it and cuts it and gets a 3-second time penalty. Holy, has definitely been very, very bad corner for Awkward. As yeah, I mean, everything looks to be the same, aside from Constella's DNF. However, Paul here looking to score 3 points. So he's gone from last place to 3 points, so very well done to him. As though we enter the 7th lap, so there's about 2 laps to go. Kampa maintaining a very nice lead, about 7 times. However, Kieran here might try to go for a move actually. As we come down into turn 1. Oh yeah, he does sneak by, but moves back onto the racing line. As they all go out of turn 2. And everybody just keeps it clean. Let's see if anything happens at the back. No, I mean, they're just gone. Race winner, yeah. Hopefully. Don't jinx it. As Michele almost goes off the track, but manages to keep it. Almost goes off the track here as well. Hope maybe gets a track limits warning. But actually, yeah, just want to prove my point. Actually, everybody's gone for the mediums here, so that made them last quite well. But few people, 3 people actually, have opted to go for the hards. And as I think works so far is, let's see what those positions say. I mean, yeah, it has. Harry, it's going to be a train. Kieran moves out of the racing line, moves back to try and not get too much power. What happened lap 1? Where is it? I mean, Clips, he just spun on lap 2. I mean, I think he spun because it was a bit of a mess. And he just kind of went off track and then retired. Brazzers just retired as well. He was P15. Constella just kind of went into the wall by, I think he got put into the wall by somebody. I'm not really sure as well. He was just way too much at the back. And Alfie just retired in the pits for no reason. As Chesney here goes for a move. Hugo doesn't really like that. Almost tries to go for a dive bomb, but thinks about it twice. As, I mean, he's already got a 3-second time penalty. Campa here, still keeping the lead, coming out to the final lap. All he has to do is just keep it clean, and he might be able to bring it home. However, Lucas Champion here has also got awesome pace. There's penalties here, just 3 seconds for Awkward and Hugo Skywalker, so 2 reserves have got some penalties. And never mind, Ben Crook is added onto that list as he also gets a 3 second. However, not much happening here. However, I do think Kieran is trying to save a little bit of ERS. Let's just see that. Never mind, I'm wrong. However, I will enable that just so I can see. Right. As Michele is actually on 0% ERS, so I don't know what his ERS saving is, but pretty poor on the straight. But I think he's on. Yeah, he's on. However, not much happening. Just trains per usual. However, here Lucas sneaks a little bit, brakes later. Kampa goes a little bit on the grass as he comes out of turn 5. But we'll go here into turn 6. Gap is getting a little bit closer as Lucas Champion has definitely been saving those tires for a little bit. As you can see on left tire, they look a little bit less grainy. although I can't really say for sure because there's this fucking leaderboard. However, he's trying, or he's going to try his best. I think Campa's on. He's not on low fuel mode, but he needs to be careful, as nothing else happening at the back. Is it gonna be Lucas Champion? Is he gonna go for a set? No, he doesn't. He just wants to get that P2. However, he will try his best to get as close as he can. As Campa, although it won't be enough. That 4/10 gap. Campa wins the sprint race with an awesome start, gaining 3 positions, goes from P4 to P5. It's a line-to-line finish by Jenga Boy and Awkward, and I think Noidere actually, Jenga Boy comes ahead actually by just a little bit. So very well done. Let's just check those positions gained real quick, as yeah, Paul definitely been the best driver out of the sprint race, although he has fumbled his quali, so can't really be for sure. Definitely gone all wrong for Clipsy here, as he was looking to win it, having already a gap. 1 second gap, so yeah. Campa wins the sprint race. However, is he going to be able to replicate that in the actual race? Because it's just 8 points. It's a lot, but it's just 8 points. Well, I don't know if it's needed, but I will get the race classification. Thanks. Just drink some water. And they just load me out. I hope not. Anyway, that's the sprint over. So we're now going to head into the actual interesting stuff, where everything matters. Because I mean, it's just a sprint race, not many points, but still helpful. Everybody has already picked their setups, of course. Who wouldn't? So, but I mean, that turn 1 was definitely a little bit of carnage. Arguably the same as tier 2. However, I think it was fine. I didn't think it was that bad. However, I did witness some questionable stuff ahead of me. Reason why I managed to got P2, but not complaining. However, everybody has made their choices as we head down into the one-shot qualifying, and I mean, can't really say anything coming out of the main straight, but we are going to get that lap data and telemetry on, just so we can see, and yeah, fastest lap. Can't really see much, as on the main straight, Chesney is looking to actually lead it, but he's using a bunch of battery, actually, same battery as well as Campa. Campa breaks a little bit later, and Brazos just retires from the session. Campa does get a very poor turn 2, as he is basically goes on the curb. So Clipsy now is looking to lead it, as it's an Alpine 1-3 now, but it was 2-3. As Jenga Boy also retires from the session, big bummer for him. But Clipsy now is leading once again. Paul moves up into second, has a beautiful turn 5 exit, most likely, as we're just going to try and focus on the best ones. As Constella now moves into P6. P5, decisive. However, they come out of turn 7 onto the back straight. Clipsy still having a comfortable lead. So I mean, he's just flied off probably. As Paul though keeps a very good second place. What looked to be an Alpine 1-3. Ben Crook is all the way back into P13 now. So Constella now actually keeping a P3. So let's see as they come out of turn 11, the last corner of Monza, and it looks to be like a Haas 1-2, so that would be absolutely incredible coming out of the final line, and it is a Haas 1-2, as half the grid was just disqualified from the session. They probably just invalidated too much pressure, but it is a Haas 1-2, so yeah, I mean, no words for the Haas. Are they going to be able to keep it for the race though? I mean, that is the question. Is Clipsy sets an 18-2. Constella couldn't really reach that, but it's still an 18-4 though, so on a one-shot, that is very impressive. Kieran, though, gets a P3, so he needs to be proud about that. Paul P4, Lucas Champion is in P5. What happened to Campa? He's all the way back into P9, but probably as well 5 people were disqualified. Jenga Boy couldn't even set a lap time. He just retired, and Brazzers just retired out of turn 1. Probably wasn't even bothered to try and set a lap at this point. However, that really doesn't matter, as turn 1 is carnage anyway. So let's just see if the Haas are going to fight together. However, as teammates, you might want to work together. That's just a little tip. Strategies here. I mean, best strategy is either going to be go for hard at the start and then go medium. However, medium, hard, medium look to be probably the best strategy, as in tier 2 everybody just went for a medium at the start. But you never know. Anything can happen, so it's just probably gonna be lights out soon. Is it still unstable? No, it's not. Oh yes, it is a little bit. I don't know why, but my PC is fine, so I give up. Taking quite a while to pick their strategies, but it is probably going to be an interesting start. As a front row, it's just Haas, and then you got Kieran just keeping at most consistency, as is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 red lights. Is it going to start earlier than last time? Yes, it is. And Clipsy here gets a pretty good start as he's up into third gear. Jenga Boy already gaining 1 position. Pole moving into third. It's absolute carnage here, as that's awkward, almost getting goes off the track. Clipsy keeps the 1-2 with Constella. It's absolute mess at the back, however, as there's just contact everywhere, and Chesney goes into last place. Brazzers here they're all fighting wheel to wheel here. However, we're most interested in the 1-2, as they just keep it clean, and that's Lucas Champion going down for the inside on Michele, and he does stick it. So very well. Oh, and that's Brazzers just what has happened there? Brazzers just pushed him into the wall. What? Not a very clean racing from him, at least from what I saw. And Clipsy just pulls away. Constella sticks by. Paul moves into the podium. Low step, but still the podium. However, Kieran is going to be happy about that P4, I think, considering there has been worse. Trent keeps a P5. However, at the back, the Ferraris, just like in real life, shit every time. However, fastest lap is probably going to go Clipsy first. However, someone else might get it, as now Michele is going to try to go for a move here as he goes into 8th gear. Is he going to go for a dive bomb down on the inside into turn 1? As it looks like somebody else might go for it, and yes it is. Kieran and Paul go wheel to wheel. Paul doesn't leave much space, but Kieran was already behind. As he goes down on the outside now, Kieran is going to try. Paul keeps the inside. Now goes on the middle of the track. He's going to send it. Kieran does send it on the inside. Almost loses it. And yes, he does absolutely lose it. Fairly stupid move. As now Jake and Silver goes off the track. Lucas Champion moves into P6. Many wheel-to-wheel racing here. As Ben Crook and Jenga are wheel-to-wheel into turn 7. Keeps it very clean, but Jenga does stay ahead. So, yeah, Kieran will definitely not be too happy. However, I mean, he did just kind of lose it. He just lost grip. So, definitely going to be a report, though, as all the cars now go into Ascari. Jenga almost goes off track, so might be a penalty. Might be a track limits there. However, Clipsy and Constella keeping the 1-2. Paul definitely going to try to get more than a P3. Trent is absolutely redeemed himself after a shit race in Austria. So, very well done to him, as the Italians keep a P4, P5, trying to get their home win of the season. But so far, it looks to go to the Dutch, as Awkward goes for a move on Ben Crook. Wheel-to-wheel racing once again. However, oh, he almost squeezes him off the track. Oh, and that's very poor racing there. Definitely not what you like to see, as Awkward just pushes Brazzers off the track. Brazzers already had a shit start, and that's just unluckily gone even shitter. But that's not his fault. It's awkward. Done a similar thing as in tier 2. I think that's sent lots of flashbacks. However, Campa here got 2 attempts only, but he's just gonna keep it. Goes on the middle of the track to not gain as much slipstream. Anyways, Noidere, the reserve driver, almost goes for a move, but was a little bit too close here. As he is going to try to go for a move now. On the inside, keeps it fairly clean. However, I think he does use a bunch of ERS for that. Or not, actually, as Hugo does have way less. As Campa now gets the fastest lap. Is there anything interesting here? Let's see. It's Trent now. Looks to have Campa defends his position. Wait, no, that's Paul, sorry. Campa defends his... Paul defends his position quite well. As there's a yellow flag, and that's Noidere off the track. Spins. He spun again. He's not going to be happy as Brazzers just retires. Definitely not the best. Probably, yeah, I mean, horrible start. Once again, from Brazzers. But it wasn't really his fault, that. However, that's not how you retire. Not even 4 laps in. Not that fun. Is there anything going on? As they all go past down onto the tunnel. What is the standard of rate? Yeah, I mean, definitely hasn't looked the best. As Ben Crook goes for a move on Jenga Boy on the back straight. Do they keep it clean on Ascari? Yes, they do. As actually Jake Oz now tries to go for a move. He doesn't even use ERS as he doesn't want to try and overtake him so far. Alright, let's see. No, he just keeps it. He does have a slightly better exit. He's going to use all of his ERS now. Going to try to get a move on Jenga Boy on the straight, main straight. However, it's just not going to be enough, is it? No, it's not. He stops using, goes on none. It's Alfie and Ben Crook. Alfie just kind of sort of pushes him off the track, doesn't give him any space. Absolutely zero space given. As Jenga Boy is going to love that and moves into P8, and there's just continuous contact. And yeah, I mean, what are they doing? Oh, and there's even more contact here. Alfie is just giving no space. Oh, as Alfie cuts the corner, is going to get a time penalty most likely, gets a free second. However, he's still going to stay ahead out of Hugo Skywalker, who's going to be furious about what Alfie has just done. He's just given no space. It's absolute madness here, as he goes all the way to try and not get an overtake, but he is going to let Hugo by. Alfie is... yeah, what is he doing? However, not much happening here aside from Lucas Champion, who is currently chasing Campa. Will he go for an overtake? Oh, there's more here, actually. No, never mind, my bad. Top 6 out of the top 7 on wheel. Oh well. As Alfie and Hugo are just fighting each other. Same goes here. They're wheel to wheel on the main straight. Can at least keep it straight here. As Jenga Boy doesn't even have DRS, so he's just gonna lose the shit out of time. However, goes for a fairly clean move. Jake just dive bombs himself in turn 1. Gets spun by Ben Crook. No, Ben Crook spins, my bad. And now they're going to go wheel to wheel with Jenga Boy, but Jenga Boy does let him through. Alfie here is just killed half the lobby, but we're not really interested about that. Anything happening at the top. Champion is actually keeping a very close gap as well as Michele. He's just having a very good start. As I mean, gaps you can clearly see P7 to P8. It's a 4-second gap. However, everybody is just keeping it incredibly close. As now Campa goes on the inside to try and defend his position, but he does. I mean, who would try to go for a move on Ascari? That's just not the smartest decision as one can do. However, Lucas Champion might try to go for a dive bomb here, but he just loses a bit more speed on the last corner. As Campa has a very poor exit, so he needs to use that ERS if he wants to try and go for an overtake. As Trent goes into the pits, he's Oh yeah, I haven't really checked strategies. Yeah, I mean, as you can see, most of the people have gone on mediums. However, Lucas Champion goes for an overtake on Campa, keeps it fairly clean on the straight. What do you expect? However, 3 people have decided to pit. They're probably all on mediums, so surprised to see. However, let's just take a quick look at the positions lost. I mean, Kieran, that contact absolutely fucked him, so sent him back into P13. He's lost 10 positions. And Hugo, however, has gained 7, as well as Ben and Jacobs, who was, I mean, it's because people have pit right now, but still, fairly good race from them, but loads of contact by them as well, especially Alfie, who is now going to try to go for an overtake on Jenga Boy, who definitely hasn't had the best start to the season. However, let's see. He's going to use all of his ERS. Jenga doesn't have DRS. Is he going to go for a fairly clean move? He's going to use all of it. Now he's going to stop because he can't even gain speed from him. And I think everybody's just going to pit now. There's 3 people already gone for 1 stop. However, a small train is forming. Clipsy stays out actually. Paul pits. Constella pits. Lucas Champion, Campa, Michele. Is everybody going to follow through? Let's see. Yes, Jenga Boy pits. However, Clipsy, Paul, Jacobs, and Ben Crook all stay out. I don't even think they're able to drag these tires much further. However, if they can, and stay ahead at the same time, it might be very useful on the long run as the last stint. I mean, they dry out your tires so much, and now have the greatest pitted, all onto the hards. Aside from Lucas Champion, who's gone for mediums, so what is he doing? He's used hards, and now he's going to have to use mediums. So that's very interesting. Did somebody get a 10-second out of that? No, nobody did. Oh, thanks for the comments. Yeah, I know, I think I'm doing a good job. As now everybody up until P7 is pitted, so still 6 people need to pit. However, most of them are on hards, so they need to drag these tires at least until lap 10, let's say. They need to use the most out of the tires as they can without losing too much time from the back. However, I don't know if it will work. I mean, it's definitely a very risky pull, very risky strategy, but let's see. As Clipsy now pits, Paul is definitely going to have to follow unless he's fucked, but yes, he does. They both pit. Nobody gets a 10-second, and now I'm assuming nobody is going to pit because they're on hards. Neither does he stay out. Yes, he does. So now it's just Clipsy. Is he going to stay ahead? It does look like he is actually, but let's see. It's going to be very tight. As Trent now comes into, takes the fastest lap. Will he stay ahead of Clipsy? No, he doesn't. As Constella now goes for a move. Paul is actually lost so many positions. Clipsy though manages to stay ahead. I don't know how that has happened, but it's still currently a 1-2 after all these 3 have pitted. It's still a 1-2 Haas. However, Paul absolutely hated that as he's now lost way more positions as Alfie gets another 3 seconds, so that's 6 right now. However, let's see, is anybody going to try to go for a move here? I don't know what in the luck Clipsy did, but yeah, as you can see for Paul, it didn't really work. So that overcut kind of screwed them over. It was just 1 lap too late probably. However, they're going to be able to use their tires 10% more on average because those tires felt, yeah, I mean, 8% a lap probably. But let's see here, Constella is going to have DRS, so it's going to be interesting if they're going to fight into turn 1, lose a bunch of time, and anybody else can catch back and go for P1. Let's see. As nobody else out of the top 4 pits, they're just gonna keep it probably until lap 11, I assume. However, Campa this takes the fastest lap of a 1:28.7, so fairly good pace for him. Is somebody gonna outrageously big? Yes, it's going to be Campa, wheel to wheel with Lucas Champion. Lucas Champion stays a little bit ahead. However, they're both going to go wheel to wheel. He's pushed off the grab by Lucas Champion. However, let's see from Paul's point of view. They both go wheel to wheel on coming out of turn 3. Let's see who's going to brake. later. Is it going to be Lucas? Yes, it is. It is Lucas. However, keeps it just in safe. Goes for a lovely switchback, but just doesn't have enough grip to pull it off. So nobody has lost positions so far. However, Campa now is open almost a second. Yes, it is now a second. So yeah, I mean, definitely fighting isn't the best option. However, Lucas Champion is on the mediums. So as now he gets actually overtaken by Paul on the back straight. So everything's gone wrong for him. As now he's going to get overtaken by Michele. Yes, he is. Who's going to break later? As, yeah, I mean, Lucas Champion gives him enough room. But yeah, it's a very clean overtake by Michele. As Paul now actually gets... Oh, and they go wheel to wheel. And was that almost a near collision? No, they were at pits. So things are looking a bit interesting. Let's see. Is Lucas Champion going to go for a late send? Let's see. No, everybody just keeps it. Coming out of turn 1. Awkward takes the fastest lap. Jenga Boy moves into P11. So he's actually going to be able to profit the most when the rest pit. Because still 3 people have to pit. As Alfie cuts the corner. What is happening? Again, once. Alfie, probably very bad driving from him so far. No comment, but let's see here. Hugo probably realized that, so he's just gonna try to go for an overtake on the straight. However, these lot are just fighting, so it's just trains. Nobody is separated aside from the top 3, but they still have to pit. Chesney almost sneaks to go for an overtake. Silver goes a bit on the grass coming out of turn 7. However, oh! Alfie just... What is he doing? Oh, and yeah, he spun. What is Alfie doing? He just takes the corner as if Hugo Skywalker isn't there. However, now Hugo Skywalker is fucked as he gets overtaken by Alfie. Now, those two are going to pit. It's just Kieran left now as he's losing so much time. Probably a couple of seconds a lap now, is it? Yes, it is. As now, Jenga Boy is actually going to move into P8, but they're all training, so technically anybody can win it. However, Ben Crook is now moving into last place, so yeah, that long stint definitely doesn't work, as I've said. So, oh, and Hugo almost loses it, so yeah, now he goes wheel to wheel with Awkward. Tier 2 kept up, but now they're all the way at the back of Tier 1. Shows the pace difference. Let's see, is somebody going to break late? Yes, it is. I think that is Noidere, who goes wheel to wheel, but actually loses a position, now threatened by Ben, who also overtakes him. So that dive bomb definitely did not work out by Noidere, who is now all the way into last place. Only person retired so far is Brothers, who, yeah, I mean, don't even need to comment on that. However, let's see if Constella wants to go for a race win. He's always complained about being in this tier, but now he has a chance to win. So, he better use that opportunity and fight with his teammate. However, I don't know if he wants to do that. It's going to be quite interesting as everybody just goes to the middle of the track, takes the racing leg again to not gain too much DRS. As Jenga Boy and Jake now actually go wheel to wheel. Jenga's just lost a bunch of time, lost to the train now. Yeah. Now Jake, reserve driver, overtakes him. Hugo now just wheel to wheel racing again with Alfie and Silver. And Silver doesn't even have a wing. He has half a wing, I think. Oh wait, no. Yeah, no, he's lost an end plate. Probably, locks up and almost loses the car. I don't know how he's able to keep that on track. Awkward is going to gain a bunch of time to him. However, it's just a cruel train here. Nothing much happening. Let's see here. Is Alf, who's going to go for an overtake here? Silver. Is it going to be somebody else? No, it isn't. Nobody overtakes anyone. As Kieran now decides to pit, he's probably going to drop all the way into last and join these bunch of people, drivers. As Awkward sneaks by, takes the racing line again. Pretty risky, bums Silver. Has a very poor exit, goes off the track. Awkward is going to love that. They're going to go wheel to wheel. As Alfie just kind of weaves. Yeah. And that's that. And now Kieran is all the way into that. Yes, of these two cars. However, he's going to have way fresher tires as he locks up and spins basically. But is it... Alfie does the same thing. Oh, as they lock up. What has happened? Just a pure mess at the back. Although it's the only thing that's been happening. So we're going to have to watch this. Who's going to come out later on the brakes? It's going to be Kieran. Alfie sort of locks up, but stays right behind him. Silver gets a very good exit out of turn 5. His exit in turn 6 is also very good. However, he doesn't throttle that much. Let's see now in the DRS. Kieran doesn't even have DRS. However, has a fairly 9/10 gap, so 9 times gap, so I mean, fairly good for him. Takes a very good corner. Goes about 250 kilometers an hour. Uses all of his ERS. Goes on none. Recharges a little bit. Goes on overtake again. So doing a bunch of ERS tricks. However, Kieran does have slightly wider exit than him. He's gonna have all the DRS now, or isn't he? No, he doesn't even have DRS. So fair play to Kieran, who's got 6 laps fresher tires than basically the rest of the grid aside from Jake. So he's gonna be able to push those tires way much. But it's a 2-stop mandatory, so I don't know how much he's going to actually gain from that. Started in P3, but let's just have a quick look at those positions gained. As Jake has gained the most positions. So actually that late, he played those hards just right to keep a P8. As now Awkward, going 1 to wheel again. Oh, as he bumps Norther, as he pushes him to get past. Now he goes wheel to wheel with Hugo Skywalker. Now it's almost going to be a free wide. As is he gonna send it? Oh no, he doesn't. He stays by. I mean, safest thing to do, as everybody wants to end up in a wall. Hugo Skywalker now also gained 4 positions. Norther, same for him. Jenga also keeping his 1 point so far. However, Kieran has already caught back 3 seconds, if I make that right. However, now they go onto the main straight. Constella still keeping that 1-2. They don't want to mess this up. They've got 11 laps left, so Trent though has actually gotten a P3, which is the first time Awkward retires. Yeah, definitely not the best racing I've seen at the back. As now also Chesney pits. He pits way earlier. Is he pitting for hards? He has to serve a 10-second time penalty. Actually, oh no, never mind. It was just my game that was glitched. However, he is going to go for the long stint on the hards, so that might pay off, might not, but might as well give it worth a try as he's in last place. Anyways, Kieran though has lost the most positions now, so yeah, it was a bit of contact, and yeah, I mean, he was kind of squished off track. However, Campa here also had a pretty good start, but he does have a 3 seconds, so that's gonna be very harsh. As trains now are starting to disassemble a little bit. Let's see if anybody has any damage, just to keep things interesting. As Alfie gets a 3-second time penalty, that's like his 4th so far, and that brings him in 15 worth of penalties. As Campa, Trent and Paul go for the early pit stops. Are they going on mediums and trying to play 10 laps on mediums? That would be hard. That would be almost impossible. So let's see. No, they're going for 2 hards, so that might actually work out perfectly for Trent and Paul, as they might actually be able to go for the lead. So Constella and Clipsy are going to be forced to pit either this lap or the next, or else they're going to get undercutted by the 2. As now everybody else pits. Jenga Boy, Silver, and Alfie also pit. However, Constella now out of the DRS zone. However, Campa the same. So yeah, I mean, Gramick is the only one who can gain a position now. as we're going to go onto his onboard. Campa that does everything to not get any slipstream, to make him not get any slipstream. However, bunch of mess happening at the back, as I assume, as it's a free wide here. Oh, Chesney goes to the side. Alfie doesn't see that coming, and what is happening? Silver is pushed onto the grass, I think, or goes on by himself. Chesney locks up. However, Alfie, yeah, I mean, just not what you like. Oh, Costello gets a 10-second. Oh no. Oh, and that's his 1-2 gone. He's gonna be absolutely fuming. How does that happen? You cannot be making these mistakes when you got a 1-2 on the line. That's absolutely fumbled his race. However, if he can get a gap, he's going to be able to still get some decent points. So now it's just Michele and Costello who have pitted. However, Costello got a bit luckier as he's able to brake later. Oh, and pole is spun by Ben, I think that is. And yeah, just absolute mess at the back. As now there's wheel to wheel between the two Mercedes, Hugo and Trent. However, Hugo is a reserve, so we better keep this clean for the sake of the Mercedes. Trent goes past. Hugo doesn't really want to make that. But yeah, he does brake earlier. He needs to let him pass because he's just boxed. I mean, that would be not very good racing. However, Michele and Paul gotta keep it clean as well. And yeah, I mean, yeah. However, the person who has lost the most here is definitely Constella, who has a 10-second. However, Clipsy now is probably going to go into the pits. Yes, he is. Can you at least not get one? No, he doesn't get one. However, Ben Crook does get a 3-second. Campa stays out, actually. Jake Crook pits. Lucas Champion pits. Let's see, is anybody else going to follow? Let's see if Kieran is going to pit. Wait, no, he's just gone on medium, so he's going to have to bring those way later. So, I mean, Kieran here definitely has a very interesting strategy. However, just 3 people have pitted, as Clipsy now is ahead of Constella, has a quite big gap, so that overcut has worked beautifully, because he's gained a couple of temps, if not a second, but just a couple of temps, so worked out very well, as Trent keeps a P3. However, Paul has lost a position after being spun, I think, by his own teammate or the Alpine. Now, Hugo and Ben Crook pit. Alfie comes out of the pits. No, he didn't come out of the pits. My bad. Because I was like, he just cut the pit lane. Ben Crook also decides to come out of the pits. However, he's in last position. Definitely not a best race from him, as he does have decent points in the standings as well. As Michele now is going to have the DRS on Trent. He's going to absolutely love that. He's just ERS saving. He's on 90%. He's on none as well. That is very impressive from Gremic. However, let's just have a quick look at the standings so far. However, and Campa decides to pit. However, that might be a bit too late, as he's either going to be in the mess, in the train, or he's going to, yeah, I mean, not the best strategy. However, let's see. Chesney gets a 3-second time penalty. However, yeah, Ben Crook is P5, so definitely not the weekend that you want to see. Campa rejoins, stays ahead of Paul somehow. Yeah, luckily. So he's going to momentarily be in P4 after 2 people pit. No, the reserve driver is in P4, but yeah, he's definitely going to have to pit somehow. He's still on a 1-stop. Let's see who's on a 1-stop. Yeah, just Kieran and Noitherate. Everybody else has done their 2-stop, or else they're going to be disqualified. Alfie, actually, just wheel-to-wheel fighting. Chesney, they have the same pace. Oh, lovely switchback from Chesney there, you have to say. Very lovely switchback. Gets a better exit and just better speed, because Alfie's on 0% somehow. However, yeah, these two are just going to constantly keep fighting, as Alfie doesn't really know what DRS training is. Trent here actually has the upper hand. Oh, it was awkward. Leaves it. Oh no, but he didn't have to anyway. So Constella here actually has a bit of a gap to make. as Northern Ray decides to pit, but still gets the DRS. So he's going to be happy. Alfie gets a 3 second, another 3 seconds. So that's going to bring him up what? Let's see. Gremic gets the fastest lap. Yeah, that is 18 seconds for pens. As Jenga Boy moves into P10. However, not much happening here as Kampa gets a very poor exit. Almost skids off the track. There's not much happening here as Clipsy just keeps a lead, and it was going to be a 1-2, but yeah, I mean, that tells you all. Alright, let's just go on oh, I went on oh, it's glitched. Anyways, I guess you can see the tires now with going on none. Oh, that's pretty cool. Anyways, yeah, just and that's Silver, who's just been spun. Now doesn't have a wing. Yeah, he's got a red wing and doesn't have an end plate on the other side. He's just probably going to retire. I mean, can't really do much in these situations here, as it's just been at the mess at the back. Alfie here is going to go for an overtake most likely, but doesn't have ERS, so can't really make that. Almost goes off the track, so that means that he's going to get a poor Oscari exit. Are they updated? Yes, they are. Oh yeah, I can actually see that. That's cool. Oh, and there's wheel to wheel. I've kind of missed this. Trent, now, Kampa going for an overtake on Trent. Clean. Keeps it, leaves him just enough room. So that's Kampa up into P4 momentarily. And Gremic is going to be into... No, he's actually going to move into P2 after that 10 second. So, yeah. As Silver, yeah, goes into the pits and retires, as expected. Definitely wasn't keep that with those wing damage. Does anybody else actually have wing damage? Let's see. As now, Lucas Champion has lost quite a bit of momentum and gets overtaken by a reserve driver he's now going to try and definitely overtake, as he does have a bunch of ERS left over. Has way more speed, as you can see, 15 kilometers, that is. Takes quite a bit of those bumps. However, let's see. He's definitely going to go for an overtake on the main straight. However, also Kampa keeping it quite close. Let's see. Kampa is definitely going to go for an overtake for P2 provisionally. On the main straight, nothing else much to say. However, Gremic sneakily says hi, but backs out as expected. As what was that cam? Anyways, Northern Ray sets the fastest lap. Yeah, definitely not some happy stuff in general. Jake was very near to get a track limits there. However, Django Boy also still gets the DRS by a little bit. However, the gap... Oh, and who is that off the track? That's Hugo. Yeah, that was definitely Hugo. Does he have wing damage? No, he doesn't. Does Alfie have wing damage? No, he doesn't. However, he does go off the track, so that's going to be a track limits warning. However, Alfie's racing has definitely been probably the worst this far. Of course, without blaming anybody, but... yeah, that has to be one of the poorest drivings standards I've seen so far. However, now Jake is going to try and go for that overtake. Uses all of his ERS. Is he going to go for a dive bomb? Is Lucas going to try and stick? Yes, he does. But just way more speed from Jake, so he's just going to stay ahead. Gets a very clean move. And that's going to keep Lucas in P7 after those penalties are served. As I don't know, I forgot in this league, do you remove 10-second unserved penalties? I kind of forgot. Because if you don't, that's going to be 20 seconds, and that's just going to send them all the way into the back. However, he's not going to have the DRS onto Clipsy, who just keeps it clean. And that's another yellow flag, and I think that is, yep. What has happened there? That's his end plate gone. His Hugo Skywalker continues off. Is going to be happy that he's finally got him out of his ass. However, Ben Crook is slowly approaching him. It's tense. Oh no. Oh no, this is not going to end well, is it? As Kieran now finally decides to pit for only 3 laps left. However, there are a bunch of gaps, so I think it's going to send him about into P10. Is now Jenga Boy. What has happened to Lucas? He just gets overtaken by half the grid. However, it's still on track. A 1-2 Haas. Campa nearly locks up. Alfie gets a 3-second time penalty. However, yeah, I mean, no words for him. He's just, yeah, doing fuck all. However, there is a small train still here, but not much. As we go down onto the final laps of the race. Been very interesting, and that's a yellow flag, and Alfie finally retires. And that's one person gone for the good. So nobody else was going to probably crash. However, Michele now actually goes for the move on the back straight on Campa, so pretty wild to go for that. However, Campa does have mediums, so they're going to definitely get more cooked than those hards. So Campa, I think, he's just going to lose a bunch of time. Oh, as Jenga Boy gets his first 3-second, I think that is. Yeah, and that's going to put him in P9, actually, as Kieran is 6 seconds. However, as he catches up, he might only get a point. So pretty disappointing start for him so far. However, everybody's gone for the 2 stops, so that's good to know. Positions gained. J-Call still has 7 positions gained. Hugo Skywalker also 5, but with those DNFs. However, Campa and Michele have both had a beautiful race, gaining 4 positions each. However, they both want that P2. They're both going to get a podium most likely if Trent doesn't catch up. And they've kept it very clean. However, let's see here. Does he have poor traction? Almost goes on the grass. Coming out of turn 5. Trent is not even going to have DRS, isn't he? Oh, Campa has a moment there, almost spins. As you can see, those mediums are definitely having an effect. Trent manages to get that DRS after the poor exit of Campa. Paul lost 2 positions, unfortunately. Had a very good sprint, but I mean, he still kept it at P6. And with those pens, it's probably going to be P. Actually, Campa does have a 3 seconds, so haven't taken that into account. So he's probably going to move up into P4. So that's not going to lose him any positions after all. Oh, and it's not glitched anymore. As you can see, Kieran has gone for the softs actually. I mean, he didn't really have much to do. He's still going to get a point so far. Pretty disappointing start. Pretty disappointing race from Kieran. However, not really his fault. Oh, as Camp almost has a moment again. Those tires must be very difficult to manage as they go on to the final lap of the race. As Clipsy just absolutely dominated this race, as well as Constella. Oh, Constella also has a moment there, almost spins. However, very, very promising race, let's say, from the Haas, as they've shown to have just dominating every single. The sprint, arguably, if it wasn't for that DNF, and also for the main race, which is the most important thing. However, it's going to be probably a battle to the line for Gremic and Campa as they come out of Ascari. But we're just going to focus on Clipsy for the moment, as after getting a quality ban for poor racing standards and a couple of incidents, he is going to take the win with a 7th gap and not a 1-2 finish, which is what you like to see. However, Gremic is going to get that P2 actually. Trent is promoted into P3. Campa is damaged. Is it going to be a battle till the line? Oh wait, no, that's because they're lapped. Yeah. And that's Imola for you. Clipsy, Dutch driver, taking home, stealing Gremik's dreams with a 4-second gap. And that's a Dutch driver winning an Italian Grand Prix after having a very, very poor start to the season. Finally shows off his true colors and dominates in Monza. Gremik is definitely going to be happy of that P2. Don't really have much to say. Gains 5 positions. Trent as well has a shockingly bad start to the season. I mean, as expected. Howard Kampa is going to take also that P4. And that is Imola for you. Monza. Clipsy is going to see the top step of the podium today. I think that might be his second time in this league, or in this tier specifically. And also Gremik takes some. It's aside from the Dutch driver, it's a podium full of Italians, as you can see. Gremik and Trent take the bottom steps of the podium, and just confetti everywhere. But that's the race for you. I'm just going to get a race if it's needed. Trent Campo Pole has fairly poor race. However, he did spin coming out of the second pit stop. Constella actually isn't penalized too much and moves into P6. Not much he could do. Aside from that 10-second, of course. But Lucas Champion gets a P7. J. Call's reserve driver finishes out of Jenga Boy, Kieran, Neudere, Chesney, Hugo Skywalker, also reserve driver, Ben Crook, Alfie Silver, and Awkward and Browsers, all DNF. They just couldn't be bothered. And I have a bit of a cold now, so I hope this commentating was fine, let's say, but I tried my best. And that's gonna be Monza for you. And yeah, nothing else much to add, and thank you very much for tuning in on this. And I think next up it's a week break, and then there's Spa, which is going to be also very interesting. So bye bye.